celebrate your small steps. Like every small step will turn into a leap.
Love it.
If you just give yourself grace and be patient and kind to yourself, you can get there. And forget all the noise. Like sometimes you go to these social runs or even your friends and they're like, oh, I have to do this pace or I have to do this,
Yeah.
or you're not really running because you're walking. And it's like, okay, well, run walking is also still a thing. And it's actually really good for your cardio,
Yeah.
to build up that way. But you have to tune out that noise.
Carmen,
Hey,
thank you so much for coming.
thanks for having me over.
I met Carmen, I think in 2021. She organizes a race locally, and I'll let her tell you all more about that in a few minutes. But I've run this race since 2021, and when I sign up for a race, my rule of thumb is to try to make sure it's for a good cause, and I have no hesitation signing up for this one. So thank you so much for what you are doing. I really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you. And I'm so glad to hear that, because a lot of times, I see these bigger races and I'm like, there's so many small races that are for a good cause that really do matter and are doing good things. And so it's always nice to hear that somebody's really trying to help also.
Oh, yeah. So, Carmen, I know a little about you. Who is Carmen David?
Oh, man. There's so many facets to me.
Yeah, yes. We were just talking about it.
especially nowadays. It just seems like, I'm married with 2 kids. I have a 9 and 10-year-old, 2 girls, and I'm a stay-at-home mom. And so there's a lot of cleaning and chores and managing the house and doing all that. But then after having a medical event happen to me, I have really dove into being an advocate for that community. And so I have a lot of roles and projects that I'm in with different providers and patients and stuff. So I do feel like I kind of have another job still in doing all of that. And so although the condition didn't really define me, it kind of just has made me find a purpose. And so I'm always talking about it. It's like I live and breathe the awareness for that condition. But then I also want to take care of me and do what makes me happy. And I like to travel and take a lot of pictures. And so there's a lot to me.
Yeah. Well, on the Moms Can Too, my desire is to hopefully encourage and inspire other moms, women, just even if they're not moms, to focus on taking care of their temple. And for me, it was after a situation happened with my daughter after giving birth to her, just not understanding what happened afterwards and just kind of focusing all of my attention on her and completely forgetting about, hey, I need to take care of myself.
Yeah.
And so, fortunately, after some different events happened, I realized, okay, I can't take care of her fully or properly or even push her to do the things that she needs to do if I am not taking care of myself.
Right.
And so was there a significant event in your life that caused you to on living a lifestyle of health and fitness?
Well, so I feel like I always had a lifestyle of being active, an active person, and mostly healthy. I mean, everybody has their quirks, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I try, but active for sure. I mean, in high school, I was in like, as a kid, gymnastics and cheer and dance. And then when I graduated high school, I went to the Navy. So very active still. You kind of have to maintain some active and exercising all the time. And I really enjoyed doing kickboxing and running and riding horses and just being outdoors and doing anything active. But it wasn't until after I had my what's called an aortic dissection in May of 2015, after I delivered my second daughter,
Mm,
that really the focus was returning to an active lifestyle,
got it.
because I was really nervous to do anything and really scared. So an aortic dissection is a tear of your aorta. It's the largest artery in your body, and it's about the size of a garden hose, like the diameter. It's large. So if you think of a tear in the side of your water hose, that's a lot of water coming out, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
tear is the aorta is where your blood is flowing to your whole body, and it connects, all the branches to get blood to your extremities and your brain and just your whole body. It's your highway to life. And so it's a lethal condition that, if not treated very promptly, is, you can die pretty quickly
Mm,
of it. And so after that, I was given a lot of limitations after they saved my life. By the grace of God, I'm
yeah.
like, I am here, and hopefully can live a long, life still with the repair that they did on me. But I was so nervous with the limitations and such that they placed, like I couldn't lift very much weight at all. Like, I
Mm,
mean, a dozen pounds, like 12
yeah.
pounds at first, or don't get your heart rate over a certain amount. And I remember saying to the doctor, I mean, like, that's like impossible. If I forget my phone upstairs, I could run upstairs
Yeah.
and my heart rate's going to go above that level,
Yeah.
And so the dissection itself and the delivery, although it went smooth, everything that happened to my body, the hormones that I was dealing with, and then the recovery from delivery, and then recovery from the surgical repairs that I had and medications that I was given. So there was such a fog and fatigue and
Mm,
reactions to medications that were not great, and trying to
yeah.
find the right meds that were not going to give me a reaction. Just so much was happening, and then of course my trauma and mental health behind it. I was just like, I really need to return to exercise. This will
Yeah.
help me in like in a natural way, and really kind of get back to finding myself, because I lost myself
Mm,
in a couple years after that happened to me,
yeah.
and it was really difficult.
Are you able to give us a little bit more detail about what happened? Were you having issues during your pregnancy?
But yeah, no, the pregnancy was fine. Even both my daughters, the pregnancy was normal and fine. The labor was fine and easy. And I remember even the labor and delivery nurse saying, "Gosh, do you know how many women have to push forever in here?"
Mm,
And I'm like, a couple pushes and these kids were out, and it just was easy. But then after I had the second one, Claire, my body just took a turn for the worse, and very unexpected, very acute. And I had pain that just I was nursing her when it happened, actually, in labor and delivery. And in fact, they wanted me to go home, because I think sometimes they really kind of press you to like get on out of
yeah.
here. And I just thought to myself, well, the lactation nurses were fantastic when I was here with my other daughter. I think I'll just stay and just kind of get some tips again. And they were great. And that is the only reason I stayed. And I feel like that was like God telling me to stay.
Yeah.
And even though the process still was lengthy, I still felt like it was like I was supposed to be
Divine
there.
intervention.
And
Yeah.
so when I was nursing her, the pain just hit me at all down my spine. Like, I mean, like from the base of my neck all the way down my spine and my back, across my whole stomach, into my chest. Like, I felt like, and I could only describe it to them that I was having a heart attack. And they
Mm,
said, "Well, you're a little young for that." And I was like, "Well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but I'm having something is very wrong, and I need you to get my OB like right now."
yeah.
And so that whole ordeal was just so traumatizing, because we delivered, and everybody came and met the baby in the
Mm,
morning, and everything's all fine, and
yeah.
and everybody's happy. And then all of a sudden that night, I am being care flighted to another hospital, and they're basically telling my family that I could die. And nobody understood what an aortic dissection was. We had never heard of it. And again, it's a tear within the layers of the aorta, so the blood is not going where it's supposed to go. It's kind
Mm.
of filtering into like a false channel, and so it's not going down like a straw, like it's not going down where it's supposed to go to get
Okay.
to your legs, your arms, your brain, whatever. It's kind of going into this false pocket. So then I started to slowly or quickly shut down.
Mm.
So I went into like malignant kidney failure. I wasn't getting any blood flow to my left leg or my right leg. And by the end of them fixing me, they basically said that I was really lucky to be alive and to still have my right leg. Because a lot of times what happens is if there's no blood flow to certain areas, there's patients who've had to have amputations of their foot or their leg, or
Wow.
they've gone into failure, or they're paralyzed, or they perish. I mean, there's just so much that goes with it because that is literally your highway to life. And so just such a scary ordeal to happen out of the blue and not understand it and then have to, learn about it
Mm-hmm.
when I was mentally and emotionally ready to read about it, because that was just tough to intake and
Yeah.
process itself. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
absolutely understand what you mean by that.
Yeah.
First, I am so grateful that God saved your life,
Yeah.
because I really believe that he is using you to, as you said before, educate other people, and not just women, but I'm sure, can men have this?
Oh yeah, this can happen to anybody, men, women, children. It's happened to children who have like connective tissue disorders that put them at risk for having an aneurysm form or have an aortic dissection happen. And so, yeah, after it all happened and I could process and read and learn, I
Mm-hmm.
thought, God really spared my life, but in the process of that trauma, also educated countless providers, because I was in one hospital, care flighted to another. And in that one, again, by the grace of God, did not succumb under his care because he didn't do anything.
Oh, okay.
And until the point where my sister and my husband were advocating for my care and were like, we need to transfer her. And then by the time they got to the third hospital, they were like, what took you so long? Now with a delay in care, she does need this surgery, she's going to die. And now with
Mm.
a delay in care, we don't know if she's going to come out of the OR. And so of course everybody loses it. But I'm thinking, okay, there was all these providers in 3 hospitals that I went through, countless nurses and techs and physicians in the ER. My OB had never had a patient like that, and so I'm sure it
Mm.
scared the living daylights out of her, but it still just educated so many people in the process of like somebody can, not have outward characteristics that may diagnose them with
Yeah.
a disorder or a genetic syndrome, because it didn't really fit the mold. They're like, okay, she's young, she's healthy,
Yeah.
yeah, she's in pain, she just had a baby, and they kind of blew it off. And um, it was a direct like education for this can still happen to anybody.
Wow.
And so I try to spread that message that, even with the run that I host,
Mm-hmm.
it's like there's all these healthy people out there running, and I'm like, I was you too, and it still happened to me.
Yeah.
Or I was 33 when it happened, and it still happened to me. I
Yeah.
don't, have any other issues that would have indicated a issue with my circulatory system, and so with my
Mm-hmm.
arteries and such. And so I was like, and it still happened. So
How I'm just like in awe right now, because this is not just for patients, but you also kind of, I guess, like informed the medical team too. Like,
mhm,
hey, this can happen to
mhm,
a 15-year-old,
yeah,
a 20-year-old.
yeah.
So, oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And even, at my pediatrician office, and she knew about it, but I even questioned people there. And I just said, when I learned about these connective tissue disorders that place younger people at
Mm.
risk for these things, I'm like, so do you guys know about aortic dissection, or do you know about Marfan syndrome? Do you know about VEDS, which is it's called vascular Ehlers-Danlos? Just trying to put the tidbit out there. Or I see EMS people or fire people at lunch.
Yeah.
If they're at the grocery store, they pull
Yeah.
up at the grocery store. Some of them come out. I've given them a card for the race and asked them, like, do you guys educate with your, what do they call them? The continued education
Okay.
courses, the
Yeah.
CE credits. I'm like, do you do anything around aortic dissection? Because it can be presented in so many different ways, which is why it can be misdiagnosed a lot of times, unfortunately.
Okay.
But at the same time, like in my case, there was certain symptoms of that I was telling them, but they just weren't intaking, I guess, because I'm like, okay, it's all down my spine, it's all across my stomach, it's in my chest. I just had a baby. And then as I'm reading all this stuff about migratory pain, acute onset, severe, like patient knows that something is desperately wrong, like all of these things. And I felt like after I read that, I'm like, I was telling them everything but the term. I was
Yeah.
telling them everything that was like they should have picked it up and they didn't, but it's because they don't see it all the time. But my one of my biggest quotes is, "Hey, rare matters, and it can happen to young or old, man or woman." Like it's
Yeah.
just so I try to educate as much as I can, and living and breathing it. Some people may be like, okay, already,
Yeah.
but to me, I'm like, no, it feels like my calling. It feels like my purpose to try to educate other people and then just help people on the journey because it was really difficult for me and I don't want people to have that same struggle.
I love how I feel like after you gave birth to your daughter and this situation happened, you became an advocate. And I feel like after I gave birth to my daughter and the situation with her, like I was fine, but I just kind of like shut down
Hmm.
and just kind of was just like in the house for like 2 years. Just, how
Yeah.
did how did your situation mentally give you the purpose to push through the pain and educate people?
Well, one, I'll say it took me 2 years also.
Okay.
So it was because, and you can attest to how traumatizing a situation can be, and you do shut down.
Yeah.
And I felt like in my case, it was um, fear just took over my life, and the anxiety and depression just set in so bad that I tried to go back to work because we had things to pay off, but I desperately did not want to be there. I remember sitting in the bathroom. There was a chair in the bathroom, and sometimes I'd just be crying in the bathroom. Sometimes I would just be sitting there to be like, okay, just breathe, and
Mm,
then you can go back to your desk, and
yeah.
and I was not okay. And anytime there was any small stress, like I remember trying to get a spreadsheet from somebody, and he just wasn't giving it to me, the spreadsheet that I needed.
Yeah.
And it just my blood pressure was so high, and then I could feel it, and then because I'm feeling
Mm,
palpitations and I'm terrified, I felt like I was scared to walk across the street from the parking lot to go to work. Like, well, this happened out of the blue before. What's to say it's
yeah.
not just going to happen when I'm walking across the street or exercising or just sitting down somewhere? And so everything just I just mentally shut down because it was just so scary.
Yeah.
And then I was scared for my longevity. Like I really thought I was going to die within a few years. Like
Mm,
I thought, am I even going to be here to raise my kids or be with my husband? And my mental health just tanked for a long time. And then I
yeah.
really just lost who I was. And the focus though, once I could process all of that pain and trauma and
Mm-hmm.
hormones getting re-regulated after a bit of
Yeah.
time, was, that I cannot go on living like this. Like
Mm,
this is not what God intended for me in this second chance at my life.
yeah.
And so I felt like something has to change. And I remember breaking down in the garage at work one day and I'm crying like hysterically crying. Like I cannot
Mm,
leave the car in the parking garage. And I remember calling my husband and being like, and he knew that I was like not well, but I think this was the point where he really understood I was not okay.
yeah.
And because I was like, I don't care if we have to move, live in a box, sell the
Yeah.
cars. Like, I don't know what we're going to do it with me or without me, but like, I am not coming back to work. Like, I cannot come back to work. I'm not
Mm.
functioning. I'm not okay. And I need to take care of me. And that's when I was just like, okay, something's got to change. I wanted to do it naturally. And I tried to find some way to exercise again because I was like, I was always an active person and felt like I needed that, not just for me physically to regain some strength, but also just mentally to get squared away again. Like I just was a
Yeah.
mess and found a CrossFit gym of all places, which you're not supposed to lift a lot of weight after
Yeah.
this, but I just felt like I need somebody to help me get going again.
Yeah.
And the doctor gave me some guidance because I was like, look, what can I do? What can I not do? So I can tell this guy so he can build like some kind of regimen to get me at least moving again.
Mhm.
But the focus was myself. Like you said, you have to make sure that you're okay to
Yeah.
take care of your family.
Mhm.
And I was not okay. And so I really had to be like, okay, I need to get myself together and made myself, even though I was still kind of weak and I still wasn't feeling well. I was still very fatigued, very full of fog brain with all the
Yeah.
medications and just, mom brain as they call it too.
Yeah.
But I just thought, I just can't go on like this.
Mhm.
And so that was like my push. Like, I don't want to live in this fog. I don't want to live in this depressive state. I don't want to feel like I'm 80 when I'm 33 and,
Yeah.
35 at the time. And I really need to push myself to to do whatever it is that's going to help me get back to my most optimal self. And even if it meant there was like the limitations, even if it meant adapting certain things,
Yeah.
I was okay with that as long as I can get moving again, as long as I
Mhm.
can feel better again. And that way I can be there for them and happy with them. And, but it was a struggle. I mean, it
Yeah.
took me 2 years to walk a 5K
Yeah.
because I was terrified to do anything. But once I got started, and then it was like the ball was rolling,
Yeah.
and it helped tremendously to help me get back to who I felt like I was,
Mm.
prior to all that.
I know you mentioned this earlier also that you were kind of scared to start doing any excessive moving,
Hmm.
because you just weren't you didn't want your heart rate to get to a certain, I guess, too high.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, the conversations that I've had with previous guests, it's just like just get started,
Mhm.
and we get it twisted and we're like, we have to do 2 hours of working out and we have to do long distance if we're going to run. And it's like,
Mm-mm. No.
no, that's not the case. Just a 15-minute walk,
Yeah,
just get your body moving.
yeah.
But for women who are, I guess, afraid, or they do have limitations, because I know that you have some limitations. What are some activities that you do to keep your body moving?
I mean, I've switched gears a lot. So I worked up. So I did run a lot, and I got
Okay.
up to running 2 marathons, which was a long time goal of mine prior to all this happening. But it took me 6 years to get there because I was very nervous.
Yeah.
Because obviously, you don't want to leave your children without a mother because you were, an adrenaline junkie or
Yeah.
something, right? And even if you want to do something, it was very like I wanted to make sure that my doctors were aware. I took my blood pressure, took the phone to show the apps of graphs of like what my blood pressure was, what my heart rate was, or I've done this many 5Ks. Can I maybe now try a 10K? And each time I went to a follow up, it was like he gave me the okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt more secure in the fact that, okay, I can do some things. But what I tell women, or it just really anybody in general, because this, again, for this specific condition was, it can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
But I'm like, celebrate your small steps. Like every small step will turn into a leap.
Love it.
If you just give yourself grace and be patient and kind to yourself, you can get there.
Mm-hmm.
And forget all the noise. Like sometimes you go to these social runs or even your friends and they're like, oh, I have to do this pace or I have to do this,
Yeah.
or you're not really running because you're walking. And it's like, okay, well, run walking is also still a thing. And it's actually really good for your cardio,
Yeah.
to build up that way. But you have to tune out that noise because the only competitor and person that has the goal is yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
just tune that out. So that's what I did. I was just like, I'm going to, I want to run a marathon. I'm not going to run a 8-minute marathon, a 7-minute marathon.
Yeah.
It's going to be slow, but you know what? I'm going to finish and I'm going to cross that finish line just like anybody else. And, you know, surrounding yourself by people who are going to encourage you on that journey is critical. And
Mm.
so anybody, I mean, I don't care if your run is barely a trot walk, you're doing it.
Yeah.
And I am, you need to be proud of yourself. Don't feel like the praise needs to come from an outside source.
Mm.
You need to praise yourself for every small step. I mean, I remember not being able to walk but the driveway, and that was like a feat in the beginning.
Wow.
And then I
Yeah.
thought, okay, I can walk like a couple houses down. Or my husband, I remember being nervous about me even doing that. And but then I'd be like, okay, I walked a couple houses down. Yeah, I'm breathing hard, but I'm okay. And then it was like a block. And then it was like, I'm talking like gradual steps. And then, of course, if you think people training for a marathon, it don't take them 6 years to train for a marathon.
Yeah.
For me, I was like, I want to do it cautiously. And as long as I can reach the goal, then that's what it was. And then once I reached it, I switched gears. So now anybody who can't do those long runs, I
Yeah.
would say, I switched gears to hiking. Walking is just as good. And
Yeah.
you can speed walk even if you start off slow
Yeah.
and you feel like you're a slower walker, you'll gradually get better at it and get faster at it. And again, you're your own competitor. So you have to push yourself a little bit, I think,
Yeah.
to get to whatever goal or pace or something. But just remember, tune out the other noise. Like
Yeah.
listen to what your goal is
Yeah.
and try to reach that. But, and once you get to a faster pace or longer distance, you can add some hills to it. Like I sometimes will go to places to either hike or just walk in neighborhoods. And I used to shy away from the hills. I hated the hills.
I'm
like,
with you
I'm
there.
not
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
And for a couple of reasons. Mine was because of my legs, weakness with my legs after the dissection. And I would feel like jello and I would get really scared. My legs
Okay.
would just kind of feel like they were going to give way. But then once I got a little bit stronger, I was like, okay, I can try this. Or I'd use hiking sticks to help myself. And, again, tuning out the noise. I don't care if anybody's looking at me weird. If I need to use that for myself, that's what I need to do. And then
Yeah.
gradually, again, was getting stronger. And then I could start a yoga class or I could start a body pump class. But you have to give yourself grace and be patient and kind to yourself, because if you let the negative talk in,
Mm-hmm.
that's what's going to stop you from accomplishing any future goal.
Yeah.
So I think that, even if you have limitations or there's still like a fog there, you can do it.
Yeah.
Just and surround yourself by people who, are really going to encourage you. I mean, the people that I found in the social run groups and some friends that really came along the journey to train with me were critical in my accomplishing
Yeah.
that goal. If I didn't have them by my side or somebody cheering me on, I don't know that I would have been able to meet it in the same way,
Mm-hmm.
and or been okay with the time and all that. I probably would have gotten tired at whatever mile and been like, oh, like I'm just done. But when
Yeah.
you have somebody there next to you also, and somebody's like, no,
Yeah.
you can do it,
Yeah.
and really pushing you,
Mm-hmm.
that you can do it, then you're like, somebody else believes that I can do it, and so that encouragement is critical.
Yeah.
So surround yourself by people who are going to encourage you and uplift you and help you get rid of that negative talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I want to emphasize is she did take her exercises and your results to your medical team. So
Mhm.
make sure you do that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I just want to emphasize that she's not just saying, go out there and do whatever.
Yeah.
No, she made sure, she was communicating with her medical team. And then eventually you were able to do those. You said it took you 6 years.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
is
just because I was
amazing.
trying to do it. So and there's people who have done it like sooner than that.
Yeah.
But I just, I just had a baby. I was just like, what ifs were still taking over my brain.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I don't want to push it,
Mm-hmm.
But then at a certain point, then time and being patient was also like, okay, time is telling me that everything's okay. The doctor's follow-ups, all my CT scans and the graphs that I'm showing them. And I remember the point where the doctor said, well, nothing on these diagnostics or your app the stats is telling us to tell you not to do this. And
Oh,
so they were
yeah.
like, everything's stable and everything's looking good. And um, got the okay from another doctor who was doing beginning exercise study on such patients like myself.
Mhm.
And so then I kind of again gave me the confidence to like, okay,
Yeah.
I can do this. Like, I know I felt like I could do it, but now I feel like they think I can do it too.
Mhm.
And so it gave, yeah, the okay. And I tell patients that, especially in the aortic community, because so many patients can have slightly different stories. So it's like, you still need to go to your provider
Yeah.
and be sure that it's a team effort that you're talking. And if it's a provider that just is like, no, and doesn't want to hear you or understand your lifestyle of being active,
Mhm.
then you might want to seek another provider who understands you, because it's not just the the condition side. They need to take into account the person that you are and the mental state that
Mm.
you are in, because quality that affects your quality of life.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, it's very important to talk to your provider, but your team,
Yeah.
and really express what it is that you want to do and what can we do to at least halfway get there or somewhat get there or get me started getting there, you know.
You were talking about how it affected your mental quality of life.
Mm.
I noticed that when so after I had my daughter, I had a panic attack, first panic attack that I know of,
Mm.
because I didn't know what was going on, and then like I accidentally overdosed on blood pressure medication, so
Oh,
that freaked me out, along with her being in the NICU.
yeah.
But I noticed that since I started, or I like the way you worded it, returned
Mhm.
back to my active lifestyle, because I was active before I had her, before
Right.
I was pregnant anyway. But when I returned back to my active lifestyle, and I love running and learning how to breathe,
Mhm.
I feel that that has helped me whenever I feel like that those panic attacks are trying to come back in any situation. It's affected like my mental strength. How
Mhm.
has returning to your active lifestyle affected your mental health?
I mean, it definitely was for the better, because, it helped me to regain confidence in
Mm,
myself, not just in the physical abilities that I was doing, but just like that you know, if I can do this little bit, then maybe I can do something else. So the confidence builder in it. And then when I'm going out to exercise, I feel like I find, like you said, with breathing,
mm-hmm.
I feel like this is my quiet time. And I feel like it's my time to kind of regain my sense of peace. And so, like the hiking thing, that's, switching gears to hike a lot, I love, because even if I want to decide to jog a little bit and run in the trail, or do some more incline or something, I don't use music. I just go out with my dog or a
Mm,
friend. I have one friend in particular that I usually hike with quite a bit. And just the camaraderie of just talking for the few hours that we might be out there doing whatever mileage,
mm-hmm.
is really nice. And you can just get away from um,
The noise.
the noise and
Yeah.
whatever. It's just getting your mind away from something. I mean, even painting. One time, I went to this thing and it was like a what is it? Painting with a twist,
Yeah.
and it was right after the dissection happened and a few months, and trying to make it not look like crap. I was so focused on the art that I was like not worried about whatever pains I was in and
Mm,
thoughts that were in my brain. And I thought, wow, this is like super therapeutic. Maybe I should take up art. But that's the way I feel when I'm exercising and on the trail. I feel like I'm in my quiet place and I'm just listening to the birds or just playing with my dog
yeah.
and watching the other people and that are out there biking or hiking. And I'm just not thinking about anything else. And I still have a lot of other unaortic related issues
Yeah.
that I have to deal with all the time. But I feel like even if I go slower because I need to or whatever, I'm out here and I feel better. I never regret it when I go out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so for my mental health, it has helped tremendously that I really try to make it a priority to go. And even if, again, somebody's thinks like walking's like nothing. It is something.
Yeah.
You need to tell yourself and be confident that it is something,
Yeah.
and be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're still moving, you're still doing something for yourself, and you're helping just clear your mind.
Yeah.
I pray a lot when I'm on the trail in the
Mm-hmm.
quiet, and for myself, for other patients. I found myself doing that a lot for other patients, just thinking about people I met online, and yeah, so it definitely helped my mental health a lot. And of course, there was a lot of things that went with it. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of time in church,
Yeah.
a lot of time trying to exercise in a natural way. I know not everybody can quit working, but my not going to work and alleviating that amount of stress.
Yeah.
There was a number of factors that helped me to get back to an okay place
Mm-hmm.
mentally,
Yeah.
but exercise was critical. Yeah.
You said that when you had your camaraderie, like the people around you, last year I decided to scale back from any long distance running,
Mhm.
but I knew that if I let my coach go, I would find every excuse in the book to be like, oh, I can skip this day for running, or I can skip
Oh,
this
yeah.
day for CrossFit. And I really like, and I know you mentioned this earlier too, like surrounding yourself with people who, come on, you can do it. And I feel like even though I wasn't doing any long distance running, I feel like
Mhm.
I became a stronger runner because my coach she knew what, I needed. Just, I don't know, because I have a virtual coach,
Okay.
but, she's human, but because virtual could mean so many things now. But she'd look at my stats and be
Yeah.
like, okay, based on this particular run, you need to do this. And I feel like having accountability is so important.
It is.
And I'm in this, like, I don't want to say season, but I'm trying to step away from the outside praise and realize, you can, Reba, you don't have to have
Mhm.
outside praise. Do it for yourself. Do it for
Mhm.
yourself. Do it for God. And I love what you say. Like, you go on your walks and you're praying, because I feel like in those moments when you are, and I had another guest say this, when you're like, oh crap, I'm struggling. I feel like praying for somebody else, it
Mhm.
makes you, like, it gives you the energy to keep going.
Mhm.
But do you have do you have accountability partners in those moments where you're like, oh, I don't want to do this?
Well, so now, because I haven't been running as much, I just switched gears to more of the hiking
Yeah.
and stuff. But so I guess it's not as much as an accountability partner. But when I was training and doing runs, even if again it was back doing the 5Ks, it still was very critical to have somebody there, and that
Mm-hmm.
was um it was great. But I felt like we really, and it was fun, so it's not just about like, oh, they're keeping me in check.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
like, you're bonding with your friend, your coach, with whoever is that is going out to do whatever distance,
Yeah.
whatever style of exercise with you. And so I do think that is critical, and I miss that actually.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I don't have an accountability partner or a training plan that I'm following per se, I kind of tell myself, okay, well, I may want to do this one trail race in November, or I may want to do this one day. And so I try to think like, I need those people back in,
Yeah.
and as we do this, and if they're still doing it, then they might be willing to still do it. But to find somebody or a couple people that you can connect with and count on each other will help you both, and if one's faster, you may get a little faster, or if you're faster, they may get a little
Yeah.
faster, or something like that, and just making sure that they're there. I mean, two of the ladies that helped me through the marathon training would meet me at my house quite a bit of the time of the training at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and
Yeah.
I just thought they are such special people
Yeah.
for driving over here to start this
Dedication.
early,
Yeah.
because they liked doing it, but they also cared what your goal was, and so
Yes.
when you have people that are encouraging to you, and they care for you, and they
Mm-hmm.
want you to meet your goals, say they've
Yeah.
already met these goals, right, and they were like, well, they know how important it is to you, then they'll be there to help you,
Mm-hmm.
and I know several people who have someone like that, and um that they do these runs with or do trail runs with
Yeah.
or hikes with. And so I really think the accountability is important, and not just like on the phone, like, hey, did you go run today? That's still helpful too. But I think the building the camaraderie and really bonding with somebody while you're out there
Yeah.
is very special.
Yeah.
And even when I did the New York City Marathon, that was the second marathon that I did, and
That's awesome.
yeah. So the first one was a virtual for Cowtown in Fort
Okay.
Worth,
Yeah.
and because I think with COVID still they were just
Okay.
the marathon and ultra, I think they were just not doing, but everything else that year they did in person physically.
Yeah.
But I thought, I'm ready now. My doctor said I could do it. I don't care, because again, like outside
Yeah.
noise, some people are like, well, it's not official. I'm like, well, I don't really care.
Yeah.
It's I'm doing it. It's the distance, and so. But we had so many friends come to my house, and the kid. We made this big banner for the alleyway, and a lot of people, they would run. A couple of them ran the whole thing. Some of them ran 20, some ran a half, and we just kind of did it all together. And it was walk run. But they were going my pace, knowing that that's what the goal was. I just wanted to finish.
Wow. Yeah.
But having all those people there was incredible. But then with New York, it was a little different because it was cooler, so I could do it a little bit faster.
Yeah.
I met my goal, just under my goal. But you know what? I was like, I did it.
Yeah, you did.
But it was so fun because you were with your people.
Yeah.
And so to run with all of them and talking and laughing and taking pictures, and it just was like, the pressure was not there.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, I know I can do this, and I know I have a certain goal. So I had a little bit of internal pressure of what I wanted to complete it in, but it was fun. It wasn't like a goal that I was just meeting just to meet in an unfun way, or my body was going to fall apart at the end. I was like, I don't want to do that. I want it to be fun, and I want to finish and be standing up when I finish.
Yeah.
And so those partners mean the world to me, and they will forever be in my heart for what they helped me to accomplish. So if somebody can have those people or be that person for somebody else, if they're able to do that. And with me, I would love to do that, but I don't feel like I'm really able to do it in the capacity at which they did. But if you can find that, I think it's amazing.
Aww. Yeah. What are some joys you have found in living an active lifestyle?
Trying to think. Well, again, it just goes back to confidence. Like, I feel like I have joy in those confidence from celebrating my own little milestones. Those are the biggest joys for me, in celebrating those small steps, because then in hindsight, I can look back and be like, it really did turn into a huge leap. In my case for the marathons, and the friendships. I mean, I find so much joy in those friendships from, whether it's just at the social groups, and, even if now I don't run and I just go walk.
Yeah.
There's people who still walk in those groups too. So if you need an accountability partner, don't feel like just a social run group is not going to have anybody for you.
Yeah.
Because there are groups that you can find that will not leave you behind, or there'll be somebody to say, oh, I'll go with her or with them or whoever,
Yeah.
And so, the friendships that you can build is a joy too.
Yeah.
And then back to the peace, just so I feel like those small things are huge things, actually. And then one of the bigger joys too is showing my kids perseverance and resilience, and then just kind of, I don't know, being inspiring to them.
Yeah.
I think. And they see how hard it is to overcome something, right? And so when they're like when I did my first half marathon after my aortic dissection, Craig's always been awesome about, bringing the kids to cheer me on and stuff. And they made this sign, and it said, "Mommy, I want to run like you," or "I want to be like you," or something.
Don't do
and
that.
I was just like, so it was just so much joy in my heart, because I'm like, they're seeing that I'm not quitting. They're seeing that I'm not, I get choked up. They're seeing that I'm struggling, but I'm not quitting.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's a great example and lesson that brings me joy.
Yeah.
That they're happy to see it, and that they're learning something like that too.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with a lady on Saturday, and I asked her, I said, "What is your inspiration?" And she said, being a role model for my kids.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, that hit me because it made me think about how when my daughter's in therapy and I'm saying, okay, Ava, just a little bit longer.
Mhm.
And I can't tell her just a little bit longer if I'm not pushing harder when I'm doing my workouts.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so you saying that,
Yeah.
I want to be a runner just like you. I want Ava to know that she can push harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to be hard,
Yeah.
but I remember she had an amazing speech therapist and she was showing me different things to help her remember her body parts. And one day we were at the kitchen table and I said, Ava, where's your nose? And she pointed to her nose and I said, I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
And I just about like
You were
screamed.
just so
Yeah.
happy.
And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, like you're doing it. And the look on her face was like,
Yeah.
like I did that, mommy.
Yeah.
And so, those joys, just
Yeah.
making them push and I don't care what diagnosis any child has. They are observant. They are aware.
Yes.
They are smart. They
They're
know.
very intuitive. Yeah.
Yes. And so she sees me because
Mhm.
sometimes she's next to me when I'm on the treadmill, like either in her Papa Sun or her little beanbag.
Mhm.
And so she hears me struggling sometimes,
Yeah.
And so I don't mind that.
Yeah.
I want her to hear me struggling because I'm not going to quit,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so that's I love
Yeah.
that.
Well, and there's times where, whether it's exercising or your mental state and you're just like depressed, there's days where it's okay to not be okay. There's days where it's okay to not be able to do what you might have did last week.
Yeah.
But you have to just remember to not totally let yourself fall off the wagon
Mm-hmm.
and getting back. But yeah, giving that example to our kids and showing them, well, yeah, because they're seeing, I could just be laying on the couch, not tending to myself, not doing any self-care,
Yep.
not trying to do any exercise, just kind of wallowing in my sadness and
Mm-hmm.
depression. But they see that, and I don't want them to, see that. So that's where again, some of that push came from, was like, I need it for myself.
Yeah.
And I need to be courageous enough to stand up and be like, I need a change and I need to do this for me. But also, little eyes are watching you, and you want to teach them, just like you teach them how to do everything else in life, that things can be really hard in
Yeah.
life, things can be stressful, but you can do it, and that baby steps are okay.
Yeah.
And we have talks with my kids all the time about their sports stuff, and things are hard, or doing a back handspring is scary. My little one, she's so athletically able. She could probably pick any sport and do it.
Yeah.
But she wants to do gymnastics, and she's so scared to do this back handspring for like a long time. Like, we've been to multiple gyms, and all the coaches are like, you can do it. And I'm like, we believe in you. The coach believes in you. I
Yeah.
wish you could believe in yourself, but know that, being patient with yourself, or it's okay to fall. Like, it's okay to
Yeah.
fall. And I'm like, so is it because you're afraid to fall, or you're afraid to just, I don't know, you just don't trust yourself? Like, what is it that's holding you back, so that we
Yeah.
can talk through it? But I'm like, it's okay. It's so, like, if you try and you fall on your wrist or your hand or whatever, and you have to get up, like, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's gonna, you can get up and try it again. And so, with us doing that, they're seeing all that without all the verbal discussion about
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
You're speaking to me because I have a marathon on the 26th and I'm just like, what if I don't finish? Okay, I'm going to finish,
You're gonna finish.
I'm just freaking out. It's my first one. So
Is that here?
yeah.
Okay. October 26th?
Yeah. And I am just like, because I've
Oh,
never
yeah.
run anything longer. Oh, well, since training, yes, I have.
Yeah.
But as far as races,
Oh, yeah.
not anything further than a half marathon.
Yeah.
And one of the guests I had on here, she also has special needs kids, and she's done the triathlons and marathons, and
Oh, wow.
she pushed me. I would say like challenged me
Challenged
is
you,
the
yeah.
correct word to say it. She challenged me, and so I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna do it,
Yeah.
if I have to walk, I have to walk,
Yeah.
because like you said, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You're crossing the finish line.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you for saying
Well,
that.
I wish you the best of luck.
Thank
I'm going to have to
you.
put on my calendar. I'm going to be there in the morning time.
I keep telling people, if you're busy, you're busy. You have things to do.
But yeah, I think that, just trying to keep filtering that noise out of like the I can't or,
Yeah.
oh gosh, I'm going to have to walk. And it's like, but when you're on the course, one thing that I tried to do because I knew I had to walk, I was having to watch my heart rate
Okay.
and my blood pressure not to get too high or my palpitations. If I got too high, that would make me nervous, which would make it higher. So then I'd feel like I needed to stop or slow down. So there's a lot that was going through my mind. But then when I'm on the course, I'm thinking, okay, like just like I tell my kids, like, when they first started doing like a 5K, I'm like, okay, let's just get to that trash can. You can do it. And then I'll be like, I bet you can make it to that stop sign.
Mm-hmm.
And every little section and every little bit was just like encouragement. But you have to say that to yourself in your brain.
Yeah.
And during the New York City Marathon, my friend and I were so tired. There was like 6 of us running together.
Oh, I love
but
it.
me and her were just like, neck and neck here and stayed together the whole time. And it was already dark. And we're like, okay, that second street light. Okay, we're going to run there and then we're going to walk for a second. Okay. And then we're going to go to the next one. And we just kept on doing just like I did with my kids. And I'm like, and you have to, and it wasn't like you're grumbling of like, like you can say to yourself you're tired, but you got to also tell yourself like, okay, but you can keep doing it. You can keep doing it, and whatever it is that's going to just self-positive talk yourself through that. Or training certain songs. There was this one song called Let's Go, and it just said, and I used to always turn it on when I hit hills.
Oh, okay.
Because all it said was, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Yeah.
And it just kept on saying it over and over. And so in my head, I'm chanting it. And I'm like, okay. And I felt like a train like chugging up, like I can do this, And so, yeah, you just got to keep it in your brain, and if you have some support of the course, that's always great also to kind of help keep you going, or a photographer taking your photos. So you're like, okay, yeah, I can't walk right now. I need to jog a little bit at least.
No, I get it. I went to a running camp, I think 2 years ago now. Mm-hmm. And the co-owner for this virtual running, he coaches athletes virtually, and so they come together for a camp during the summertime. And he is crazy, and he was like, we're going to go up this mountain, and he's like, you guys come with me. And so I'm thinking we're just going to have a little hike up the mountain, but no, he wanted to challenge us and have us climbing on a cliff and doing all these like wild things. So I was tired, and like he was like, okay, just go one more step up. And he would give me a marker. You see that little stone up there? You go up there and you do it. You go up there and he just kept telling me like different things. Because I was, at one point, I was just like, I had my hands on my head and I was just like, I'm so dramatic. And I was like, a helicopter's going to have to come and save me off this mountain. But when I got to the end, when we walked back down, I was like, I just climbed up 11,000 feet. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And I saw your daughter at the last race. Was it your oldest one who ran with your sister?
Yes. She likes to run the 5K every year.
That blessed my soul. I was like, I saw her beautiful red hair and I was like, oh my gosh, she's running. Because that would have never crossed my mind to do that at her age.
Oh, she started when we started the race years ago. She did her first one when she was almost 5. She was 4 years old when she did a first full 5K. And I told her, because she's always wanted to try to do, she's like, Mom, I want to do our run, because it's, it's a family thing that we've done. And so I'm like, okay, but you can't get the medal unless you do it on your own 2 feet. And I don't care how slow you go or how fast you go, but you have to do it on your own 2 feet. And so I'd kind of always assign somebody to go along with her. Mm-hmm. But I have a picture of her crossing and smiles running across the finish line. But yeah, you got to take those baby steps to get to the end. And of course, sometimes you do have to listen to your body. If your palpitations are so hard that you need to like stop or slow down for a minute, of course, do that. But if you're training right and you've been continuing with that and you can do your 20 miler, then you could finish it up, And even if you have to go slower, just tell yourself, I can do this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay.
I'm marking my calendar. I'm going to have to be there. I don't think I'm doing anything that morning. So
last night I did a demo with Hoka and Carlos was like, when is it? And I told him and he said, I think I have a demo that day. I said, oh, do you need help? And he was like, nope. I said, no, I think you need help because you need me to be there. So I can't run my marathon that day.
Oh, man.
But so to the moms who don't think there's a way out of the mental fog, mm-hmm. are this mental block because of the trauma, the wild experiences they had either during labor, during pregnancies. What would you say to encourage them to take the first step into healing physically, mentally? And I know that sometimes it can challenge our faith.
Hmm.
So even spiritually, because I had a guest on here a few days ago, and she was saying she was praying that her mother would be healed of Alzheimer's, but she passed away, and it tested her faith.
Hmm.
What would you say to encourage them that it's either going to be okay, or to, like you said, take that first step?
That first step is always so hard,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what the situation is. But after a struggle with, like, the pregnancies or deliveries or whatever trauma it is, again, in my case is different than whatever other situations might be out there, but listening to your inner circle, to your support group,
Mm-hmm.
um, without taking offense is, I
Mm.
think, one step that
That's
I
good.
felt I've taken that I didn't get mad about, but I was actively trying to listen to what their perspective was and what their thoughts were because they cared about me.
Mm.
I So there's that, and then there's also taking, like I said, being courageous and standing firm, and that I need to do something for myself, and understanding that what one may call selfish is something that's bold and needed to be a priority for yourself, and that's okay, and
Yeah.
not to let anything take away from that point for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So some examples of that, when I remember being in a very depressive state, and I don't think I hadn't gotten any like therapy or anything at the time, but
Okay.
my parents took me to church, and it felt like an intervention. It felt like
Yeah.
they were so concerned, and we were going to talk to the pastor, and it was about how depressed and anxious I
Mm.
was.
Okay.
And but I listened instead of being like, oh, like, and just angry because they talked to me about it or whatever. I was really trying to open my eyes to their perspective. But then I really thought, man, if my dad is sitting, because usually moms are more in tune with your emotions and
Yeah.
stuff. And although she was, it felt like, okay, something I do need to get some help, because if my dad is sitting here saying it, then
Mm.
that means it's very apparent.
Yeah.
And so sometimes listening to that, and of course there's levels of it, right? I mean, you can't always listen to everything and then just ignore your own gut feelings about things. But there's
Yep.
certain cases where I think for the most part, family and your friends, your inner circle, care and love you
Mm-hmm.
and want the best for you. And so if they are bold enough to want to help you and step forward and say something, to try to not take offense to that and be like, okay, maybe I do need to get some help, or
Mm.
maybe I do need to step out and go for a walk. If it's something where, you're stopping yourself from doing it, and they're like, you really should get up, whether it's, I don't know, diet or something else, even. It's like, um, if somebody's trying to tell you something in a loving way, to hear it,
Mm-hmm.
take it in. But then also that you are your own best advocate in your self-care. So, encouraging people um, to know what they're feeling. So if you're feeling depressed and down and not yourself, just not your optimal self at all, and you need to um, look at what you're eating, or
Yeah.
look at your exercise, and what you're doing, or your stress levels. What is causing me to be so stressed out and not feel my optimal self? That you have to look inside of you
Mm-hmm.
and be like, what do I need? And be bold enough to take that step for yourself.
Yeah.
um, and that's where I was just like, I just cannot live like this anymore.
Yeah.
And although I'm scared to take that first step, don't know what's, if quitting my job, I don't know what is going to happen. Like, it
Yeah.
was scary to do all those things. And so I think no matter what the situation is, you still need to and having faith that it'll be okay,
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a lot of time spent in prayer
Yeah.
and a lot of time just reflecting and in therapy and in trying to take care of myself to take that first step in the first place. Um, but I think, yeah, your circle and listening to you is the best advice that I could give for somebody stepping forward again. But don't allow yourself to not take that. Don't let that negative talk stop
Yeah.
you. If you hear it and you feel it in your gut and you know you need to do something, you know you need to step outside to get that first step in to start walking, you know, again, just a couple houses down the way or something,
Yeah. Oh, that's
then
good.
just do it. Put your clothes by the door. I used to do that too. Like where it's like, I
Mm.
don't want to get up either. Nobody who wants to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go run or walk, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I would put my stuff ready, in the bathroom, by the front door, wherever it was that I was going to wake up. And I would give myself zero excuse to not take that first step.
Mm.
So whatever you can do to help yourself in those situations. And I know everybody's different and it's harder for some to have that self-initiative, but you just have to try your hardest to help yourself
Yeah.
because you are the one who's going to make the change for you. Nobody else can make the change for you, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like therapy also plays a huge part in that.
Huge. Yeah.
My I don't remember exactly how old my daughter was, but my friend and could hear that I had not been that I was still needing to be healed.
Hmm.
And I love what you said by not taking offense, because I could have just been like, excuse me? Like,
Hmm.
what do you mean I need to go to therapy?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that I didn't take offense and I went to therapy
Yeah.
and I met with her. And I just feel like after meeting with her, so many things just like shifted.
Yeah.
And it opened up my eyes to see that I didn't want to live the same lifestyle. Because
Mm.
by nature, I am, my friend says, I love you, but I can't be around you right now. You're too up here. And so by nature, I'm always like really hyper. And so it was really hard for me to even just be like in that depression and just being like, this is not who I am, but I
Yeah.
can't get out of it because this is my situation. So like you said, a lot of prayer and being in therapy and having that circle around you.
Mhm.
I'm so grateful for her being like, and I had another friend, I told her, I was like, I just feel like I'm having postpartum depression. And she said, no. She said, you're going to go work out and you're
Mhm.
going to, and she was just giving me all
Like,
these.
don't let yourself succumb to
Yeah.
whatever it is. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so I so grateful for those people
Yeah.
and for new people in my life like you. Carmen, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
But I
thanks for
always
having-
have fun questions. I call them fun questions because
Okay.
it's like fun for the guests to know a little more about you.
Okay.
So, what's something you and your family enjoy doing for fun?
Oh man. Okay. So we're huge hockey fans. My husband plays in like beer leagues. He coaches kids and introduced my oldest daughter plays hockey, travel ice hockey. And so hockey is our life. And so
Yeah.
we like to go downtown to the Dallas Stars games or watch them on TV. Different teams, if their friends are like, oh, my favorite team is the Avalanche, we'll be like tuning into the Avalanche game so that they can be like, I don't know, saying whether they won or lost or whatever, say something to
Yeah.
their friends. But we do love to do that and being outdoors. And of course, it's harder nowadays that they're a little older and in the sports
Okay.
to get there. But this weekend we are finally going camping and there is no games that we're missing. So I'm like, yes,
Yay!
it
Yeah.
was on the calendar to go. And, but we off-road, we have a Rubicon Jeep
Oh, okay, yeah.
and we tent camp. And so the kids
fun.
we've done that since they were little bitty and they always really enjoy doing both, camping and off-roading.
Mhm.
So that is another thing that we really enjoy. And trying to think of what else, just food. We're always eating out because we're always on the go. So we're trying to get them a little bit more well-rounded on things. We found a place that, where is this, in Frisco that has soup dumplings. And so
Ooh.
trying different little things, they're getting a little bit better about trying new foods,
Mhm.
But that's always fun, just spending time together like that, even if we can't be around our own kitchen table
Yeah.
or around a table
That
somewhere.
I'm like, soup dumplings, lunchtime. No.
Yeah, but those are the two probably main things.
What's
And-
one of your favorite like vacation spots?
Oh man. So outdoorsy one. So we went to, I don't know how to say it right, Ouray, Colorado,
Okay.
where Silverton area, and there's all these off-road passes that are very well known. And we went on a trip in the summer of 2020
Mm-hmm.
to Colorado to do that, and we want to all go back so bad. It was just
Mm,
incredible.
yeah.
And we have some other off-road friends that go there every year. And so maybe one of these years we'll have time to actually join them.
Yeah.
But that was always like a favorite that we always look back on traveling. And even though we haven't had a big opportunity to travel all the time or often, that's where the camping stuff comes into play. So even if we're going, an hour, 2, 3 hours away, that's like our family getaway time,
Yeah.
But that trip was just, I mean, talk about seeing the beauty of God's creations out there. I mean, and you can't see that stuff unless you're like this impeccable athlete that can mountain bike to the
Right.
top of these, 12,000
Yeah.
feet or whatever. Or you're in a off-road vehicle to get up
Mm-hmm.
there. But just so, so beautiful. And I just can't get over it. I've traveled a lot when I was in the Navy.
Yeah.
I was stationed in Naples, Italy, overseas, and so
Ugh.
I traveled a lot of Western Europe
Yeah.
and places. And I thought I had some favorite places, but when we went to that trip to Colorado, I was like, I don't know, this
Isn't
one
it
this one
so?
probably tops my favorite place in
That's
Italy,
so funny. Yeah.
and so, but the kids haven't gotten to travel very much. That was
Okay.
one of them. But my husband and I went to Colorado to Canada this past summer, and so
Mm.
we have plans to take the kids back when we can to
What
go
city
again.
did you go
We
to?
went to Banff,
Oh my gosh. I was
and
like, she's going to say it. And that's
yes,
one of my bucket list places.
yeah,
I have
it
friends
was.
who've gone there, and I'm just like, don't show me any more
Oh,
pictures.
it was so beautiful. And you know what's crazy about that trip? So a guy that I met on a support group for the aortic community online. He's from Australia.
Okay.
And we got to be really good friends because we were like the only people at the time talking about exercise in that community and wanted to kind of feed off each other, like what you're doing, what your doctor's saying, and all this.
Yeah.
And so we got to be really good friends. And they came to stay with us for a week to run Cowtown half
Oh,
marathon
okay.
in 2020. And then this summer, they were like, we're taking a trip all across Canada. You should come hiking with us in Banff. And I'm like, I've always wanted to go there. So we made it happen. And that's how
Ah,
we went. And we drove from Banff all the way up to Jasper, Craig and I, on the first day, and just made all these stops along the Icefields Parkway that were
oh
just
my
incredible.
goodness.
Like endless lakes and
Mm.
camping and hiking opportunities there. Just incredibly beautiful. And then, did some hikes around the lakes with them when we met up with them. But in the process, we're like, oh man, the kids would love this.
Yeah.
We need to come back and rent a camper and just drive all over Canada. But yeah, that
Yes.
was a beautiful spot too.
Oh my
So
gosh, I'm
you
so
should definitely
jealous.
go
Yeah.
one day. It's nice.
That's a goal, Caleb.
Yeah, yeah.
So 2 questions.
Mhm.
Can you tell our guest about the race that you organize? And can you tell us how we can support the cause for aortic awareness and aortic disease?
Yeah. So the run that I started is called Run for Aortic Health, and I started it as a way to give back to research studies for the aortic community, but it also is very therapeutic for myself to starting to get back to be active again.
Okay.
And so it very much was a passion project of mine and my family's that we put on, and it benefits the John Ritter Foundation, but also other aortic initiatives and studies that are important to the aortic community. And so yeah, so we hold it every year, and every year we were able to give quite a bit of money, and through some matching, even through my husband's company, since it's kind of
Oh,
our baby, we put this
yeah.
together, are able to give a lot to whatever projects that I feel like are important. So this through the John Ritter Foundation, they have their John Ritter Research Program,
Okay.
and that's genetic research for families who are affected by aortic disease, and so money goes to that program. There are programs that have done studies for pregnancy studies, why this happens to women during
Mm,
pregnancy. And that was a big push for myself with this event also, because that was my case. That was my story. And when it
yeah.
happened to me, and I still don't have all the answers, but because sometimes genetic testing doesn't always provide you an answer. For some, it may, and say you have a connective tissue disorder, and this is probably what caused your dissection to happen. And for mine, it was like what they call variants of unknown significance. But those variants of unknown significance can be really important for research because they'll continue to research that. And that's how they come to find genetic reasons for why somebody has cancer or has an aortic dissection or
Okay.
has something, right? And so research takes time, research takes money. And so I try to be patient and continue to give to those projects because I feel like even if they don't answer something specifically for me, they will answer it someday for someone if we
That's
are patient
good.
enough to continue providing for that program. The exercise study that was done for aortic dissection patients came out of that too. So I started talking to this doctor, and we started funding his initial start to the study, and that preliminary information that's gotten from starting these studies is important for them to get a grant later on to continue and broaden the study. And because of course they're very expensive. So
Okay.
although the race is not like a gala that can give, $1 million, we feel like it's still really important in giving. And those doctors are very, gracious and appreciative to what we can give to them, but yeah, anything that's important to the patient is my priority because I am a patient and I've been in those shoes, and I don't want people to have to struggle with the same things that I did, like exercising and taking forever to get back. I want them to know that these doctors have studied this, and it's safe to do X, Y, and Z,
Yeah.
and maybe somebody starts within the first year of their journey and can get back to a better quality of life because of such studies, or start a family and have the research behind it to say it's okay for you to start a family, or
Yeah.
here are the risk factors in you starting a family, or here are the options for you based on your condition or diagnosis to start a family. So the race is very important to me, and I love that you and so many people donate and participate and spread the word about it,
Yeah.
because again, the rare stories matter, and we just don't want anybody to pass away from this prematurely,
Yeah.
because that's what happens. Especially in younger people, there is usually a genetic reason, and so we want to provide funds for these research studies. But people can go to find out more information through a number of different organizations. The John Ritter Foundation, you can go to johnritterfoundation.org, and they have a lot of information for like Aorta Academy, where you can learn more about what it is. They have a donation page where you can give if you're called to do so. A lot to check out on their page.
Okay.
Videos for patients to help them on their journey. Aortichope.org is another organization that I help with a lot too.
Okay.
More recently, they actually collaborated with a group in the UK that put together a patient guide to help patients along this journey. And I wish I would have had been given such a pamphlet or book when I left the
Really?
hospital
Okay.
versus going straight to Google, because
Yeah.
Google is
Will scare
terrifying.
you.
Yes. And so, last year, or the year before, a part of that, benefiting John Ritter and other research studies was giving funds to that patient guide, because I know it's very important for patients to get that information, know what resources are out there and available for them, so they're not walking out of a hospital with no information, having to Google, feeling alone, not having resources.
Yeah.
And so we gave some of the funds from the race for that last year. So we try to branch out to, again, the things that are important
Yeah.
to the patient community and really hear what's happening, because I'm a part of a lot of these organizations as a volunteer. It's all volunteer basis, but being a part of so many different projects and organizations and the support groups online really open your eyes to what is important to them. What are patients talking about? What are they
Yeah.
struggling with? And so I'm just so appreciative of people sponsoring and participating in it because it's grown a lot.
Yeah.
And it's a 5K and a 10K. And for more information on that, you can go to runforaortichealth.com.
Okay.
And right now there's like it's not announced the date for next year,
Yeah.
but you can find the general information and on the I forget what the tab is called where we have all the proceeds information.
Okay.
So I write on there what all we were able to give to aortic research every year so that people can see really what we're giving. We want to be transparent on what it is that we're giving because it does mean a lot to us. And I put in a lot of work every year.
Yes, she does.
To do it, and mostly by myself. And but of course I couldn't do it without all the volunteers. Like, I mean, this last year turned out amazing, and we had a lot more volunteers.
Awesome.
Because I changed the course, so we needed people more on the course.
Yeah.
And it was great, and so I could not pull it off without family and friends. Helping support it because they care for us, and for the community.
So, if they want to volunteer, they can go to runforaortichealth.com.
Yes.
Okay, because she's going to need more volunteers, y'all.
Yes. This last year was so overwhelming that I'm thinking I'm going to need to start a committee or something.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to do it all by myself before the race day, But yeah, you can go to runforaortichealth.com and, there's a tab there where you can email and, say that you're interested in volunteering or sponsoring, and we can send information to you from there. Yeah.
Carmen, thank you so much. And I really appreciate all of the information that you've given us. And I know many, many women are going to be encouraged and inspired from hearing your story. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely.